How's it going, everyone? This is Fonzie from the Boo crew. I just wanted to make a quick video going over the deck I got second place at the Las Vegas Regionals with. If you guys aren't aware already, I was playing Bibbidi, or the Boo leader. This leader is amazing. I believe wholeheartedly that this is the strongest deck in the format right now, with the exception of Gohan, which is a pretty difficult matchup. I ended up having to play against it twice the day I went undefeated. Both times I won 2-1, and it was very close. I'll go over my thoughts on that matchup later on after I go through the deck profile. For those who are unaware, the frontside leader 10k, not a Boo, but when you attack with the leader, you get plus 5k and you draw a card. When you have no cards in hand, you take 2 life, draw 3 cards, and awaken on the backside. On the backside, when you have no cards in hand at the end of your turn, you draw 5 cards. Very, very strong. And then it has 2 activate mains, neither of which are once per turn. You can discard a card and either give the leader plus 5k for the turn, or you can absorb one of your opponent's battle cards, energy cost 3 or less, not ignoring barrier. But either way, super amazing removal option, plus being able to pump the leader, discarding your hand, going off using the Boo chain that we'll get into. So that's it for the leader. Let's talk about some of the important tech choices first before we get into the core of the deck. So first off, for negates, these were pretty standard. We just played 4 power bursts. Friday, I had originally ran 2 times judgment and 2 power bursts, but the card was pretty lackluster, so we ended up deciding to go with just the standard 4 power burst instead. Being able to recycle the 1-drop Bobbity was very clutch. I think in the future for the Gohan matchup, I'll probably side the Goku making an entrance, which will give another target for Power Burst as well. Next up, we have, in my opinion, one of the strongest cards in the deck. 4 of the Turley's Unstoppable Ghost Warrior. You can put 2 cards back between 3 and 6, play it for free. It's a dual attacker, activate battle. You can discard a card, give it plus 5k, so it's a 15k dual attack early game. This is the strongest option. I always want to see at least 1 or 2 of these in the first 2 turns, because you can apply so much pressure so fast, and with the meta being mostly surge leaders, you can just dump so much damage before they're ready. Usually they'll charge a multi-turn one, and then they fall behind way too fast. Next up, we have 2 of the Dash Pack Hachiaks. These are the champ versions that I want. I'm very happy about these. They look way better in the pink sleeves with the rest of the deck. But this card is a great play starter. When you're mulling for the combo pieces, usually you want them in the drop anyway, as well as the mimicries. So this is just a phenomenal option for dumping cards to gain card advantage in the drop. And then the activate main to play it from the drop is relevant as well. It has dual attack if it attacks a battle card first, and it's a 25k body, which is a very potent threat in a lot of decks. I won multiple matches or multiple games in top 16 by just playing this card when I had baited out enough resources and just killed them with this last attack. Next up, a contentious card. A lot of people have been talking about it. Double Champa. I'm playing 2 of the Double Strike Champas, which I think this card is phenomenal, especially in the first 2 turns. Because against a lot of leaders, if you just put them to 4 life going into their turn 2, if you're on the play, even if you go second and they just charge a multi and then you bring out a Turles and swing with double strike plus your leader, you're putting them to 4, and that just puts them in such a defensive mindset that it's really hard for them to think about being greedy at any point later. So you can force a ton of negates and combo power later on, and then you just win by straight card advantage with your leaders end of turn draw 5. Another card people were really curious about was my decision to play the Goku Apes. In testing, I found that this is the strongest card against Topo, especially like in game 1. Um, Being able to have the ability to swing with any of your battle cards, force their negate, and then or force the topo, and then go up the Boo chain to like the 6 drop and then tapping 2 to get 2 cards and being able to swing with it, you can end up like killing them through topo. I had a game, I had multiple games during the regional where they would topo me and I would still beat them just with the power of this card, especially if you have multiples in the drop. In the sideboard, I have side options for topo, but I would probably just replace them for more apes because this card's just nuts. Onto the standard stuff, we have the 4 Bibbidi super combos. This card's just amazing. When you play super aggro in the first 2 turns, you end up with like 10, 11 cards in drop, and then this is like a 0-15. And then later on in the matchup, you can easily out combo most all-ins with just one of these and a couple other 0-5s, and it just makes it so you're safe off of the big pushes. I would play this over any other super combo. Now onto the play starters. We're playing 4 of the 1-drop Bobbities and 3 of the Malicious Mimicry. I like seeing this card early, but I don't want to open multiple copies, so that's why I decided to play 3. But I definitely want it in my drop by turn 2, ideally, so that turn 3 I can do a play starter if I don't have a Bobbity. Bobbity is just nuts. The fact that you can just go up so much energy worth of cards on turn 2 by having all you need is 2 energy for it. It's just such a phenomenal play starter, and a lot of people don't think about the fact that it's also a 5k instead of 4, so you only have to combo 10 power in order to have it be an effective attacker against an awakened side of a leader. And on the front side, on turn 2, if you're swinging with it and then just comboing off 1 card, it's a 10k threat and they have to out combo it. So all in all, amazing card. And then Mimicry, a lot of people know about the second effect to be able to warp it from your drop, but a lot of people that I played against weren't aware that this is also a 1+15 activate battle, which is it's huge for just committing near the end of the game. Onto the 4 of chain cards that I'm playing. So we're playing 4 of the 2-drop. This is the best place starter. A lot of people, when I see talking about this deck, they always want to mull for this card. While that's true, this card isn't as important as finding Turleys early. So if you open up, ideally you want to open up with multiple Turleys more than you want to see this card, because you want to see. I usually like seeing this card after I awaken, depending on how many Turleys I opened with. Um, but still, best place starter going the 2 to 4 to 6 on turn 2. You can just apply so much pressure. So because we're playing 4 of the 2-drops, we're also playing 4 of the 4-drops and 4 of the SR6 drops because we want to see these as much as possible. This card just like shuts down Surge Q's card advantage because they really are heavily reliant on the apes as well as the Invoker's card advantage, because then they pitch all the extra cards and then they try to plus off the warping them to reveal the top card and they just can't do it. So this card is just insanely strong. And you usually, this swing will force negates out just because you're threatening triple strike. So if you can pressure them on turn 1 with the multiple Turles and put them down to 4, then this is almost a lethal attack on its own, which is very potent. And then the dual attacks here. Swinging with this guy isn't always recommended, especially against red, because is that all you got is probably going to become a more popular card soon, specifically mainly because of this deck. So I'd be wary about swinging with this unless you know it's free. But other than that, that's all I have to say about those cards. The other pieces of the chain that I'm running are 2 of the Dash Packs main board. This card is nuts in the U11 Jiren matchup. Um, Day 1, I played 3 of these because I side 2 more against a U11 player, and basically said, go ahead and successor into anything, whatever it is, it's going to be gone. So this card is insanely strong in that matchup as well as the Surge Broly matchup, because if you get this out turn 2, then they have to be really careful about arrivaling into the both the SCR and the 6-drop Broly. Because this can warp both of them. I almost lost to Surge Broly day 2, and he arrived out the 6-drop or the Seeker Rare, and I had this out and I just warped it, and it kept me alive for the turn, and I was able to crack back next turn. For the 5 drops, I'm only playing 3 of each. In the future, these might come down to 2 and 2. There wasn't many times during the entire regional that I really felt comfortable going into these cards because they're so easy to be outed, especially against the Invoker. They have Death Beam, and then they're just they're not sticky enough. So I really try to push with one Boo chain to make them discard as many cards as possible, and then when they're at very low card value or card economy, I will like to go into the crit and then threaten the double strike, and that's usually enough to push. And then on to the last couple cards. We're playing 3 of the Demonic Screams. This card is amazing. Being able to threaten the triple strike, and then even if they negate it, you can still pitch the rest of your hand, and then play this, restand it, and then do another triple strike attack. And that is very, very strong. And it's also my favorite target to put back with Turles, and that's the main reason I kicked the card up just for card cost because like Debor is only a 2 drop in the deck, so you just want to see more 3 drops that you want to put back because you don't really want to put back the 6 drop or the 4 drop. So this is just another target that you can open up with early that has multiple uses. And then last for the last of the cards, we have 2 Pui. This card is nuts. I was originally siding it day one, and I decided that this card is just too good to not be mained because, especially with the way that the current meta is looking with a lot of Surge Coup and Surge Piccolo, they have a lot of counterplays. Vegeta the Cruel, Vegeta exploiting weakness, and all those things, and being able to just have minus Killy on a battle card is very, very potent, and it's also a 15k barrier attacker. So that's it for the main deck. Going over the side deck real quick, I brought in a third Pui in some of the very counterplay heavy matchups. Um, Brought in against Topo. I tried this card out. It wasn't relevant until top 8, and then I got it off against both Invoker players once, and that was enough to like turn the match in my favor. The card's super strong, but you have to be at forward in order to do it. So I'll have to keep testing it. I might replace these with apes, but we'll see how I like them going forward. Next, we have a 2 Petrification. I'm pretty disappointed with this card. It did like the actual effect of it didn't really come up all too often at all. I brought this in against Gohan just to see more negates, but at that point it could have been any other black negate times Judgment even on in the side probably would have been better. Um, I like the interaction that it has with the 100% Overdrive Frieza. The way they ruled it was that the auto for that card goes into pending, and then when you play this and target it, then its auto can never activate. So being able to blank some of those cards is really potent, but we never really played a matchup where it was actually relevant. We also cited 2 Deborah. This was mainly against the Frieza chain as well as some of the successor chains or as an option against Victory Strike. I didn't really side this in all too much either. It was pretty blanked for the most part, but I also like it. It's another aggro target for Bobbity because it's only a 2 drop in this deck, so you can bring it out and have it as another aggressive threat. Cited 2 of the IARs. This card I mainly cited for the mirror, but it was also very good against I cited it against Surge Coup, mainly for to warp their apes, and then day one somebody cited in the 5 drop Vegeta baby that you can warp it during active battle to give something minus 10 or 15k, and being able to warp this out of their drop was huge. I also cited it in against Gohan just as extra combo power more than anything. 2 Demonic Scream. This was or Demonic Absorption. This was mainly for hitting the Kunshi in the Jiren matchup as well as hitting the Invoker Vegeta. Didn't really come up too often though. Probably will end up swapping this out for something else later. 2 more Dashback Boo. Great against Surge Broly and Jiren. Can't say much about the card that I haven't already said. I in the mirror as well. This is the stronger 6 drop. And the last 2 Black Mass Saiyans, I brought these in mainly just to get myself to 4 when I was playing Super Kamehameha. But honestly, of the 2 cards that I would change out for the 2 more apes, it would be these. So, quickly going over a couple of the key matchups that I saw. So I played against a lot of Surge Piccolo. I think that that matchup is pretty favored for us because if we can resolve the six drop on turn two, we basically shut down a lot of their card advantage other than their leader. Um, we force a lot of resources on this, and they can't really interact with it with like the arrival cards or anything. And the from what I saw, the Surge Piccolo deck mainly just wants to disrupt us on our turn. But once we go up the chain, we have no cards in hand, and so their super combos and their cell Kamehamehas don't really do anything. So they just have to waste a lot of resources defending, and we usually end up out attritioning them. Um, the matchup that it's probably the most contentious and the main reason that this deck isn't tier zero right now is the Gohan matchup. Gohan, I struggle against pretty heavily. I ended up getting 2-0'd in the finals against it. I had played John the day before and I beat him 2-1. And what I've learned from the multiple matches that I've played is that the leader's front side is pretty strong as just a threat to push their life down early. Typically, I want to mull for as many usually one or two negates and a couple turles and a champa, and then we stay on the backside or the front side until we can ideally go in on a double strike against them. So usually we'll just want to like poke early, generate card advantage, defend the first turn or two, and leave mana open up, which is usually enough to like stay the threat, as long as we have negates to back up. And then after they get down to 3 life, then we want to go in with at least the leader swing. And if we can like get a Turles on board, say they negate this, then we just want to like get an attack to connect, and then we dump our entire hand and put a double strike on one of our cards to get them down to one, and then from there it turns off their ability to really threaten us anymore. So that's how I ended up winning 2 of the games against John on Saturday. So there's still a lot of testing that needs to be done. I think that when that new Gohan card comes out of the draft box, that'll be one of our strongest options against the Gohan deck. Just being able to turn off the triple strike and have that leader interaction is the one thing that I thought this deck was missing. So when that card comes out, I would definitely think that it'll be the strongest, uh, the strongest deck for sure, unless there's something else super insane that comes out in the new draft box. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, leave a comment below. Let me know. Feel free to subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot of meta analysis in the future on this channel, as well as a product opening. We'll eventually get a better camera and get a video editor and just start doing some of the fancy stuff. But for now, I appreciate you guys watching this. Have a great day.